All right, so the Las Vegas Raiders have a massive opportunity that lies in front of them right now, and his name is Antonio Pierce. Antonio Pierce took over as the interim head coach for the Raiders after they parted ways with Josh McDaniels part of the way through this season, and it's an understatement to say that he's absolutely invigorated this football team. And granted, the roster is by no means perfect. There's holes all over. The Raiders have to nail these next couple drafts. They've got to perform well in free agency. It's a flawed roster. It's an average roster. But Antonio Pierce had this team competitive. They battled every game. They played every game with conviction, and even late in the season, they were competitive for a playoff spot. They played into mid to late December, still having playoff hopes alive, which says a lot for a team that went through the adversity that the Raiders went through this year. More importantly, though, lightning doesn't usually strike twice, and the Raiders passed up on an opportunity that was identical to this not that long ago. Who remembers the name Rich Bisaccia? I'm sure most Raider fans out there do, and I know a lot of Packer fans do right now, as he's done an excellent job in Green Bay as well with their special teams. Rich Bisaccia, kind of like Antonio Pierce, revived the Raiders season back in 2021, and this was after the John Gruden controversy when the Raiders had to part ways with him, and it seemed like the Raiders season was an absolute dumpster fire at that point. Like just hit the reset button. Let's just focus on 2022. No, that was not Rich Bisaccia's mentality. His mentality was getting that team to the playoffs because it was more than able, and he believed in them, and he got them there. And they went to Cincinnati and almost beat a Bengals team that was Super Bowl bound that year. That's impressive. A team that should have been done. A team that should have imploded the rest of the year amid all the controversy they were facing. No, they fought on. They blocked out the noise and they fought on. What happened to Rich Bisaccia after that season, must you ask? Yeah, the Raiders didn't hire him. No, no. They hired Josh McDaniels. They conducted a head coaching search, and they hired Josh McDaniels, which was a massive mistake as they ended up moving on from him a year and a half later. So I say all that to say they passed up on the opportunity. Rich Bisaccia was a perfect fit for the team. It's all about, when it comes to coaching, it's all about buy-in. You can factor in all these different things, past experience, leadership style, culture, and not downplaying any of that. That's all very important, like how we fit into the culture. It's all very important. But if players don't buy in, all of that means nothing. The point I'm trying to make here is that the Raiders already have everything that they need in Antonio Pierce, just like they already had everything that they need in Rich Bisaccia. The answers to every one of their questions was right in front of them, but they still looked right over Rich Bisaccia, conducted a head coaching search, and brought in Josh McDaniels. The Raiders have one of two options here. They can either hire Antonio Pierce as their head coach full-time, which is what they should do, or they can conduct a head coaching search, which is time, capital, human capital, financial capital. It takes time. It's a very extensive process. Conducting interviews for any business is always extensive. You don't really want to go through it. So when you have the answers to all the questions you have right in front of you, why not just accept it? Why not just take it? You already know what you're getting, Antonio Pierce. You can bring in somebody as talented as Jim Harbaugh. Somebody who has a history of reviving teams and programs like Jim Harbaugh. Bring him into Vegas. Yes, you can do that. He has a proven track record, and that would be a good hire. But when you already know what you're getting out of somebody, and he proves to be a fit with the organization, he does fit with the culture, but more importantly, players buy in. If players don't buy in, you have nothing. Players buy into Antonio Pierce. That's about 80% of the puzzle right there. So the question is, why not bring him in? Antonio Pierce, Las Vegas Raiders, that team, it's in his bloodstream. He was a Raider fan growing up. He grew up in Southern California. That was his team. He eats, sleeps, and breathes Raiders football. And I must add, he's a former player, and he didn't play that long ago. And I was a kid when Antonio Pierce was playing. I remember watching him on the Giants. He was an absolute dog, an absolute baller, great linebacker, very athletic, very hard hitting, big impact player, and players know that. Players respect that. Where they're being coached by somebody that they watched, and Antonio Pierce is also somebody, which is this is another very important factor when it comes to bringing a head coach. He knows how to connect to the younger generation. That's a huge hurdle, and a lot of teams miss on hires just because of that factor. They bring in somebody who, yes, has a track record, but does he know how to connect to younger players, players that are just getting drafted, players in their early 20s? Does he know how to connect with them? It's different than veterans. It's different than if you're talking, got guys that have been in the industry for decades. Coaching in the 2000s is a lot different than coaching now. The guys are a lot different. Your coaching style has to be a lot different now. You should have somebody that knows how to relate to younger players, and Antonio Pierce has that quality about him. The Raiders are one of the NFL's greatest and most recognizable organizations. It's the most controversial organization. It's an organization, it's a little rogue. They have an edge. But so does Antonio Pierce. There's the guys after beating the Broncos this past Sunday, smoking cigars in the locker room, bumping Chief Keef, and swagger. That's what you remember about the Raiders in the 70s. The controversial team. The rogue team. They're different. They're the Raiders. They have a chip on their shoulder because of that. And there's nobody who embodies that spirit more than Antonio Pierce. And yes, you have two options when it comes to this. You can either conduct a search and bring in somebody with a track record, or trust what you already have. And in this situation, I think it's in the Raiders' best interest to bring in what they already have and hire Antonio Pierce as their next head coach. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you and the time that you took out of your day to watch the video. And if you enjoyed it, please be sure to like the video and share it, as well as subscribe to The Era. The more likes and subscribers I get on this channel, the more resources I can attain, and the more resources I can attain, the more value I can provide to you, the viewer. And that is how I show my appreciation for you for the time that you devote to watching my videos. So thank you so much, and have a great day.